Hey guys, welcome to Moscow. Just after New Year, and I'm here in Red Square. It's always nice to take a walk, see people out and about, just enjoying the last days of the holidays. Really, it's a place that really you never get tired of. So much history, and yesterday was actually the 100th anniversary of the death of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, the father, if you like, of the communist state, really, in Russia. An immensely powerful and influential person who, of course, has left a huge imprint not only on Russia but on the world. In the earlier part of the 20th century, of course, this divide between the two great ideologies, capitalism, socialism and communism. Of course, Russia now a capitalist country, and this is one of the myths about Russia that you often hear. You commies. I mean, Russia is probably one of the most aggressively capitalist free market economies I've ever experienced, ever. There's nothing that you can't buy in Russia. There's immense wealth here, huge wealth, and that, of course, stems from its vast natural resources. This is a continental landmass, and that, of course, feeds into the idea that the Western powers could cripple or debilitate the Russian economy. It's just absolutely ludicrous. But Lenin's death, I suppose, defined the beginning of that entrenchment of attitudes. And now, in 2024, we're really looking at another shift, a shift between the multipolar world and the unipolar world, that old dominance of the United States, of course, which through its dollar has dominated the post-colonial world left by the British and the other great European powers. In their aftermath, the Americans took up the baton as the great imperial power, and they dominated the global south and the developing economies in Africa and South America through the dollar and through their aggressive foreign policy. Of course, we know that the Americans have started, dozens of wars, covert and overt, in the period after the Second World War. Over 800 military bases across the world. Bigger spending on the military and war in the United States than the other 10 countries below it combined. Yet they are the guardians of peace and security. The only country in the world to ever use a nuclear weapon in combat, in a war against the civilian population, it has to be said, is the United States. And now they are the country who decides who gets to have a nuclear weapon. So when you're here in Russia and you're here on Red Square and you're thinking about Lenin and the ideology of communism, the legacy of communism probably is one of, we can still argue about the legacy of communism, but had it not had to face off against an aggressive capitalist adversary like the United States, you wonder what communism and socialism could have really delivered for the peoples of Europe. And indeed Russia, the great achievements under communism, the space program, the vast technological advances, first man in space, Gagarin, and a huge modernization of a vast continental state. And this union of 15 different states, the Soviet republics, most of whom now are still very friendly with Russia, and most of whom are helping Russia survive the sanctions which have been very aggressively levied against it for doing what America and Britain have done hundreds and hundreds of times over the last 200 years, defending their interests in a country that borders it. Ukraine, a country, of course, defined for the first time as the USSR evolved. Ukraine became a state. It had never been defined as a state. Until then, it was Lenin who aggressively lobbied for the teaching and development of Ukrainian culture and language, which was previously seen as a dialect of Russian. So lots of interest and insights here in Russia, and people here are acutely aware of the realities around that, whereas in the West we tend to adopt and aggressively grab the drive-through narrative. We're told who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. We don't decide for ourselves. So think for yourselves and look beyond the dates. Look beyond October 7th in Israel. Look beyond December or February 22nd in 2022, because the events that precede great momentous dates are as important as the dates themselves. See you soon.